Welcome to BizTV's Beyond the Brand. I'm Kelly Phillips. Today I'm joined by Dan Dalton, an HR executive who uses his 30 years of expertise in strategy and human connections to help organizations build high-performing cultures. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of BizTV's Beyond the Brand. Having spent over 30 years bridging the gap between corporate strategy and human connection, he is a veteran HR executive and founder of P314 Consulting, a specialist in emotional intelligence and team dynamics. He helps organizations cut through the ops noise to build resilient, high-performing cultures. Please welcome Dan Dalton to the studio today, and we appreciate you being here. Dan, before we get started, I want folks at home to get to know you.
Sure.
Where'd you grow up? What was life like? And what led you to what you're doing today?
Well, first of all, Kelly, thank you for the invitation to come in and have a chat with you. I was born and raised in Waco, Texas, Texan from the get-go. Went to school in a small liberal arts college in Georgetown, Texas, called Southwestern University, and majored in marketing and minored in, my mom says I minored in intramurals, but ended up with a marketing degree and had absolutely no idea what to do with that. So I went into retail, but stumbled into consumer banking. Gentleman hired me to do some marketing work for a credit union in Austin, and I fell in love with consumer credit and lending and financial counseling. And so I started building a career thinking I would be a banker.
Yeah, in finance.
Yeah, for the rest of my life. And I got a chance to join what was then Texas Commerce Bank, one of the largest banks in Texas. And he got that little pin on my lapel, the Texas flag, and it, I feel, okay, I'm in it now. While with them, I got a chance to start teaching just some training courses. It started out with just doing the training in the middle of staff meeting whenever a policy or a procedure or product would change. They say, hey, Dan, do a 10-minute presentation on what has changed and what we need to do different. And then they came to me and said, well, we want you to put together a class to teach our people in the branch how we make credit decisions. And so we put that together, and the learning and development manager said, you're wasting your time in the back office of this bank. I want to hire you to be one of my trainers, and I'm going to move you to Dallas, and we're going to open a banking school in the DFW area for Texas Commerce Bank. Well, that pulled back the curtain on the career of human resources.
Yeah.
And I got to work with the recruiters and the generalists who were doing the performance management. And I was just fascinated by the science behind it. So in my 40s, I went back to grad school and got a master's degree in human resource management, sat for the certification exam, and it was off to the races. So I've now been 30 years of everything from being a recruiter, corporate trainer, generalist, employee relations, small little segment of time in compensation and benefits, and found out that wasn't where I was best talented, and just working with the people side of business, the banking industry, healthcare. Spent a long time doing HR work with healthcare, and I was been fortunate enough to be with large companies like McKesson and JP Morgan Chase, but also small companies, little startups, home health and hospice, and some other things of the companies of that size.
Is there a correlation that you can see now looking back, connecting the dots between finance and what you were doing to HR and what you're doing now?
I think so. I think it started out when I got an opportunity to work with my customers to teach them financial management, especially in a credit union environment where it's a little less formal than a commercial or retail bank. There are an opportunity to work with the members to be more financially literate. Mm-hmm. And it kind of sparked in me an interest about teaching and training. So when I got a chance to be in front of a classroom every day and share, not only the objectives of the organization, but things that I've learned, then I fell in love with just being a teacher, and then got into these personality profilings and just understanding the people behind things and why people make decisions the way they do at work, and realized that my skill set is geared toward teaching and mentoring and shepherding. So I've just looked for opportunities to share. I've had people tell me when I've helped them with situations, especially in the workplace, "Wow, you're really smart." And I said, "No, I'm not that smart. I've just had to clean a lot of stuff off my boots."
But one thing you brought up is the different personalities of people, and that can make or break a workplace. Can you go in and identify and won't necessarily say fire them, but mold them into better fitting into different organizations?
I can, and basically what happens a lot of times is that people are hired, and sometimes they'll either evolve by promotion into a certain position that they think is advantageous, but it may not necessarily fit their skill set as well as some other things. There are a bunch of different personality profiling tools out there, but they all work pretty much the same. And you can kind of figure somebody out if you'll ask them two questions. Introvert or extrovert? What do you do to recharge your batteries? What do you do when you're downtime? And if they're the kind of people that say, "Well, I recharge my batteries by calling my friends together and going to the ball game." Okay. Probably a little bit toward the extrovert. Okay. Or I really just need to go sit in my favorite chair with my favorite book.
More of an introvert.
Okay, so that tells you the introvert, extrovert. The second thing is when you're making a decision, when it's coming down to it and you're right there, do you want one more piece of information, or do you want one more piece of how it's going to impact you or others? So that's the thinking, feeling side. And when you know those answers, you can kind of place people in one of the four quadrants. There are lots of people who are drivers. They're go, go, go. The motto might be.
Is that a type A typically?
Yeah. For instance, in one of the tools is DISC. And a lot of people understand DISC. It's the driver. It's the D. Mm-hmm. And their motto might be brief, be bright, and then be gone. Tell me what you came to tell me, and then I'm looking on to the next thing.
Yeah.
The next one is that person who wants to influence, the person who really likes to be involved. Put me in, coach. What sport are we playing? And just wants to be included, involved because they want to make an impact. Mm-hmm. The introverted corollary to that is somebody who is not necessarily into it to drive themselves, but they're really focused on the social justice. They want to make that decision based on the best possible outcome for the most people or the least negative impact for the most people. And in DISC, that's the S, the personality. Then C is the detail people. They want to know information. It is something of an introverted personality type, but it is geared toward the thinking side. Then the joking thing I usually say, life only has meaning if I can put it in Excel. Okay. So when you have those kind of quadrants nailed down, you can kind of see what type of work they're most apt to be successful in. I once served an organization where my manager was a highly educated, very technical person. And I am about as opposite of that as possible. But I knew when I came to him, I said, okay, I'm going to bring you information. I'm going to bring you data. I'm going to bring you bullet points. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to sit back and give you time to process. And he goes, that's great. That's exactly how I think. I said, I know. He goes, well, what do you need from me? I said, for me, I just need to know every so often I'm okay and that I'm on the right track. I just need to be encouraged that the influence that I'm seeking to make is focused in the right direction. And we learned how to communicate with each other. Now, I told him that after a meeting with him, I said, well, I'm going to have to go back to my office and take a nap because me spending that much time in detail, it wipes me out.
You're worn out at that point.
And he goes, well, me going out and shaking hands and being, kumbaya is not necessarily my thing either.
So he needed to get the group of guys together and go to a baseball game.
Exactly. But therein lies the true crux of the matter. Yeah. If we can understand how people are bent in the way they take in information, the way they give out information, the way they make decisions, and you could flex toward them and they flex toward you, then communication in the workplace is enhanced.
Yeah. Dan, we need to take a quick break, but don't go away. We've got lots more to cover when we come back. We'll be right back with more BizTV right after this. Be sure to scan the QR code on your screen to sign up for BizTV's monthly newsletter, The Biz Beat, where you'll get articles, business news, and columns by BizTV's personalities, all sent directly to your inbox. And we're back with Dan Dalton, owner of, get this, I said it wrong, but I'm going to correct it, P314 Consulting. And Dan, before we get started, tell us what that means. I know there's a meaning behind it.
Well, it starts out with the fact that I'm a person of faith. So I drew the title of the company from my life verse, which is Philippians 3:14. The Dan Dalton paraphrase of it is, forget what's behind, strive forward to that which is ahead of you, that we need to continue to strive forward to that to which we've been called. And so our mission statement for the organization is that we help organizations and individuals strive to reach the potential to which they've been called.
And you have definitely found your calling in your consulting firm.
I feel like I have.
Tell us about some of your success stories going in and helping different businesses.
Primarily, the biggest success story across all of the work that I've done is improving the communication. It doesn't matter which tool you use to do the behavior profiling. Almost every one of them, the first section of that report that you get is around communication. Communication is where the breakdown happens, because poor communication is going to negatively impact the relationships. And it's hard sometimes for people that are very analytical to remember that business still works on relationships. Every person in an organization has a 360-degree array of relationships that they got to be a steward of, especially those in leadership. They've got to take advantage of quality relationship with their superiors, and it may be the CEO and the board or their stockholders. With their subordinates, they've got to have a relationship. Because I said so, management style doesn't work anymore. So you've got to have that communication. And we learn so much from our peers, from those at the same level with us. So there's that lateral communication. That other lateral communication is with our clients and our vendors, those people that are bringing materials in and that we sell our materials to. So I would say that across the board, that communication is one of the first things that we look for to enhance with an organization. Just get people talking.
It's hard in this digital world that we live in. Everybody's, thinks this phone thing that we carry around with us is our communication. Where did the face-to-face go? Is that what you're trying to bring back?
Absolutely. In fact, when I was in grad school, I was working with the bank, and we were installing an electronic applicant tracking system that put in screening tools for us to just process more applications faster. And I was fascinated by the science of it, but then I got to realize that, wow, that's 2 interviews that aren't happening anymore. And really started looking at the human behavior aspect of that. And I wrote a paper. I've still got the paper. It's in my office at home. Has the H left HR? And just the whole digitization of business today, and the fact that these are still relationships that we're having to build. I can learn more about a candidate who may very well be a colleague just 2 or 3 decisions from now, that I'm going to have to build a relationship at some point anyway. Why not start now? Why I really need to get it out of that land of ones and zeros of the digital world and realize that that's a human being. That's somebody's mom, somebody's brother, somebody's husband that I'm going to be relating with during waking hours, probably more often than even my own family, because we're going to be spending 40 hours or more a week together.
Yeah. So how do you turn it around?
Self-discovery more than anything. Another thing that I use, a tool that I use, is a concept called inside out coaching. It was developed by a guy named Alan Fine, who is a performance coach now. He used to be a tennis coach.
Okay.
And he wrote a book called You Already Know How to Be Great. And what it does is through discussion, you realize that, especially when there's conflict or change that is necessary, we more than likely already have the answer. We just need to mutually discover it. And so through continued questions, conversation, and just coming to conclusions that a normal conversation is going to come to, you can actually get to what Alan calls the way forward. And that's the plan to mutually address the issue at hand.
That's just fascinating. We hear a lot these days about a workplace having a toxic culture.
Yes.
What does that mean in your world, and how can you help?
Usually I found that the toxic culture is because there's a breakdown in communication. And I'm not necessarily talking about the communication from the source of the toxicity. It's the lack of communication or willingness to do something from leadership to address what they know is toxic. What I have found in my career is many times the person creating the toxicity is also your highest performer.
Really?
And they don't necessarily want to address the issue for fear that the productivity would go away. You can see it in professional sports. A lot of times the biggest culture problem in the room is your best player. Not always, but sometimes. I've seen it especially in retailing, especially commission sales retailing. When you start building that book of business that starts becoming statistically significant to your organization, the managers do not necessarily want to
rock the boat.
Yeah, and run the risk that top salesperson would take that book of business to the competitor, and therefore they just let it slide.
Which does what to the workplace?
Well, those people who are up and coming and trying to learn, there's no communication with that top performer, because sometimes the top performer thinks it's beneath them to help somebody who's starting out. Besides, that person starting out might be better than them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a learning disconnect. There's no mentorship opportunity there. And the people that are in the middle that are doing pretty well just get tired of the preferential treatment, especially if some of them have been held accountable for their miscues. But they see
top performers
not getting, and so they leave. So what you end up having in the workplace is this donut hole where you've got this top performer who's creating toxicity. You've got new low-level performers that are trying to strive, but there is no source of enhancement or growth to them because nobody's paying into them. And all the talent in the middle is left because they couldn't stand the toxicity anymore.
So what should businesses do to take a look at their own culture, and how can you help?
Well, again, it communication, and that's where we come in with the second part, accountability. And leadership, as John Maxwell defines it, is influence. And when you are leading as well as managing, you're having the influence, and the influence is holding the top performer accountable, making sure that they understand their worth, but at the same time where they need to develop to pay into the culture. The rest of the culture benefits in that it begins to thrive. And so that accountability of leadership to hold everybody accountable to the standards that are established for workplace behavior and, just the way that people go about doing business also creates an opportunity for the up and comers to be nourished and to begin to flourish. And there's paying into them by holding the top performers accountable and setting expectations that you're a shepherd now. You're a steward of this and need to be paying it forward as well, so that we can perpetuate the success of the organization and continue to grow. There
are probably some businesses out there going, I need to get in touch with this guy. How do they do that?
I have a website. It's www.p314consulting.com, or it's Dan@p314consulting.com is my email.
All right. Easy enough. Dan, hopefully you'll be helping lots of businesses out there.
Well, and please be mindful of the email, because I do have webinars that come up occasionally that I publicize there on the website that are free of charge.
Oh, perfect. Even better. Dan Dalton, we appreciate you being here. And we'll be right back with more BizTV after this. Thanks for watching BizTV's Beyond the Brand. Be sure to subscribe to the BizTV YouTube channel, where you'll find full episodes of this show, fresh BizTV content, and a few surprises each week to help you stay inspired.